Hello, my name is Nicholas Cohen. I'm a primary care doctor with a practice in downtown San Francisco. I created Health Score. Health Score is a proven way to optimize your health and extend your lifespan. Today we're focused on the domain of psychological health, and we're talking specifically about optimism. The recommendation is recommendation number 4, be optimistic. Let's first take a look at the definition and prevalence. Optimism is broadly defined as a tendency to think that good things will happen in the future. Let's take a real-life example to distinguish an optimist from a pessimist. Here's how a pessimist would think about getting rained on after they just got a car wash. They have a permanent, pervasive, and personal view of what happens to them. They would say, this always happens when I get a car wash. I never have any luck. Of course, the day I decide to get a car wash is the day it finally rains. An optimist, on the other hand, says, at least it didn't rain last time I got a car wash, and I'll double check the weather next time. They're thinking about it as a specific circumstance. Well, that sucks about the car, but at least I lucked out and didn't water the lawn today. And it's impersonal. It's not about them. It was nice weather this morning, and I wasn't the only one who thought to get in the car wash today. So you can see the same situation had drastically different interpretations based on the person's outlook. I find something similar in my practice now that I'm seeing patients during shelter in place with COVID and the Trump elections, and everybody's stressed out. A significant portion of the patients I see are diagnosed with anxiety. They have developed anxiety as a result of the current situation. They were not screening positive for anxiety beforehand. And these people who I talk to about their anxiety attribute the anxiety to the situation out there. How could you not be anxious? Wildfires, COVID, Trump as president. But the fact is that the now minority of patients who aren't anxious have those same circumstances in their world as those who are anxious and pessimistic. But they manage to interpret the situation differently. So clearly there's no inevitability about how you interpret what happens to you, even if it's a situation that is a strain. It does not translate into automatic effect on mood and effect on outlook. And in the most granular way, you could actually determine an optimism score. And I actually recommend you do this. So indicate the extent to which you agree with each of the following items. In certain times, I usually expect the best. Indicate if you strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree, and write down that number in the appropriate box. If something can go wrong for me, it will. What do you feel about that statement? Indicate your response with a number. I'm always optimistic about my future. Indicate your response with a number. I hardly ever expect things to go my way. I rarely count on good things happening to me. Overall, I expect more good things to happen to me than bad. You should now have a score somewhere between 0 and 24. And you can determine how optimistic you are by your optimism score. 0 to 13 would be low. 14 to 18 would be moderate optimism. 19 to 24 would be high optimism. And this is the reference if you want to look at the study where this scoring system was validated. What is the prevalence of optimism in the United States? This was a study of 18,000 Americans done in June 2020. And 54% were somewhat or very optimistic, whereas slightly less than half were pessimistic or not sure. That's actually, well, make of that what you will. I wouldn't say it's very high, and I would also say during COVID and in June of 2020, it's pretty good that more than half of people are optimistic. So we've discussed what optimism is, both with a common statement about what optimistic people are like, with a contrast between how an optimist and a pessimist both would handle getting rained on in a car wash, and from my own patients, how they handle the stress of COVID. You now have an instrument where you can determine your life optimism score, and hopefully you've done that, because it will be useful when we talk about the evidence for the effect of optimism. And you've seen that a slightly more than half of Americans consider themselves at least somewhat optimistic.